From Relay FM, this is Connected, episode 78. Today's show is brought to you by Squarespace and PDF Pen from Smile. My name is Mike Hurley. I am back, joined by Mr. Federico Viticci. We have traded in me for Stephen this week.
You know, it was a difficult decision. Basically, the podcasting gods approached me, and the gods were like, you have to sacrifice one of your co-hosts to have Mike back. And it was a very biblical effort. But, you know, Stephen was kind enough to sacrifice himself for the cause. To have you back on the show, Mike. Welcome back.
Thank you. I'm happy to be back. And so it's this weird thing to have missed 2 episodes, but it fell just upon the time where the day that I got sick and then like 2 days before I got better. So here I am, and I enjoyed being a listener. I was listening live.
No, we saw you.
Providing follow-up and feedback, and I was suggesting titles. It was very nice to have that live listening experience.
Yeah, we felt the pressure, Mike.
Oh, yeah?
You know, we were being watched by you. I hope you enjoyed the show. I hope that we didn't blow it, Mike.
You didn't. You did a good job.
Okay, that's good to know. So we have follow-up. We have follow-out. But first, what's going on with Google Docs this week?
Yeah, so we're going to take a slightly different stance now. You guys mentioned it last week. It's kind of got to the point where me and you we just don't want to deal with this. So I'm still using Google Docs for some of my shows, but for a couple of shows, especially for shows where they're predominantly iPad focused in preparation, so this show and Cortex as well, we're using Quip. Now, Me and you have used Quip in the past.
Before, yes.
For the same reason, Google was lagging behind, so we gave Quip a turn until Google caught up again. And the reason we switched back is because Quip has its own weird UI issues in places.
Yes.
So once Google Docs kind of caught back up again, we went back to Google Docs. But at the moment, I'm happy to take Quip's kind of weird UI bugs for split screen multitasking.
Yeah.
Like, you know, they even have some bugs in split screen. Like, you hit this like
Yes.
button to try and change formatting, and it only shows you half of the UI. And, you know, it's weird, but it's being more actively updated for the device that me and you choose to use, so we're going with it for now.
Yeah, you know, you gotta pick, you know, the least worst option, really. And Quip has a few issues, at least for me, when typing. Like, sometimes it doesn't accept characters on screen. It's kind of weird.
Or the insertion point jumps around every now and then when you're copying and pasting.
Yeah, it jumps around, and, you know, there's a bunch of oddities, really. But it's better than no split view at all, or having to use the blown-up keyboard in the Google Docs app. So, you know, I'll take it. And we'll see.
It has some great features as well that I really like. So one thing that I think is genius is native ability to import Google Docs. That is so smart. So I just was able to sign in with my Google Docs account, and I was just able to bring in our show note document, and it maintained all of its formatting. It has a URL scheme for documents, which is great for me to use my quick launching actions that I use to launch all of our separate docs. I use Launch Center Pro Actions in a Notification Center widget, so I'm able to maintain that. They have a web app as well, which is also a bit buggy, but they also have a Mac app. So I'm currently using their Mac app in split screen on my iMac with Chrome, which is really nice. So, you know, it's working for us right now. And I believe it is a when, not an if, when Google Docs does decide to have their iPad Pro update, I'm looking forward to checking that out, and maybe we'll move back. But for now, at least for me and you, and for me and Gray, I guess, Quip is doing the job that we need it to do, which is to give us the cross-platform experience that we're looking for.
Yeah. And, you know, you can even export documents as Markdown. There's a bunch of little, you know, nice features. We'll see how it goes. For now, I've been outlining the shows with split view. It's really all that I wanted. So we have decided to stop complaining about Google Docs just publicly. Or, privately, we say really bad things, but we'll see what happens.
Well, we decided to just take some action, which makes our lives a little bit easier.
Yeah, we always like to take action.
Got to take action.
Yes.
Alex wrote in regards to some follow-up about app updates. You and Stephen had a fantastic conversation last week about the weird trend of the way that app updates are pushed out by large companies. And this was a quite a good point that Alex made. And he says, I actually thought one of the most common reasons developers may issue updates in the way that they do, with very little information, would maybe be quite widely known in the dev community. The reason is that App Review, so Apple App Review, doesn't then know what to review specifically. Leaving a generic update message such as bug fixes leaves the Apple reviewer with the task of reviewing the entire application, most of which presumably would be working fine, since it's presumably passed App Review many times in the past via previous updates. This reduces the chance that they test any new features or hidden features, which for whatever reason the developer may not want the app reviewer to be honing in on, thus improving the chance of an update getting passed.
Yeah, what does this say about app review?
What does it, and also what does it say about the developers putting the applications through? I mean, you can say what you want on either side, but that is a really good reason for why they may do things this way. I mean, we look at that whole Facebook scenario that you picked up on with the. What were they doing? They were using audio and all that kind of stuff to keep the app active.
Yeah, and I know that people at Apple knew about this, and they were just waiting for people to figure out what was going on, and but I don't know why App Review didn't pay attention to that before. But I totally believe that for big companies, not having a detailed changelog can help with App Review. Maybe. I don't know.
And also it helps them. So I was thinking about this as well. That there are many of these big applications, they roll out updates which have hidden functionality in them that will come at a certain point because they have the update in place before they make their announcement of the new functionality that their app has, right? And they do something server-side to enable it. That makes sense to me as well, that you might not want to kind of show your hand before you're ready to announce a piece of functionality.
Mm-hmm.
That's another reason to do it, but not to do it every 2 weeks that way.
Yeah, it also makes sense for companies that do one of those staged rollouts of new features.
Yeah.
If you write it up on the App Store, the changelog is the same for everyone. Whereas if you just keep it vague and then you roll out the feature internally in the app to only some users, you can avoid the frustration of people asking you, "Hey, where's this new feature? Why don't I see it?" You can do like Twitter. Twitter doesn't often, announce new features in the changelog on the App Store, but then they release updates very frequently, and then on the Twitter blog, you can read about the new features. Still, for smaller developers, I don't think this is the best route. I just prefer to, if you are, a smaller company or an indie developer, it's just better to tell people what's actually new. It was an interesting topic. I got a lot of interesting feedback. I forgot where it came from, but someone on Twitter said, I like apps that are updated often when they come from indie developers because they make me feel like I have a relationship with the developer in the sense that I bought their app and now it's getting updates and I feel like I made a good choice. And really that encapsulates a lot of what I feel like.
Yeah, it's a really good point. That's a really good point.
Yeah.
I just want to do a bit of follow-out to Remaster, which is a video gaming show that me and you host along with our friend Shahid Kamal Ahmad, who worked at PlayStation for 20 years. On the show over the last couple of episodes, we've began what we're calling a State of the Union of the different gaming platforms that exist. Episode 2 focused on Nintendo. Episode 3 focused on iOS. So I wanted to just highlight the iOS episode specifically to listeners of this show. I think people may enjoy to hear what me, you, and Shahid thought about Apple's 2015 in gaming and what we think of their trends for 2016. I think that there might be a good crossover, and I think that this series that we're doing on Remaster would be enjoyed by many people that listen to this show, because we're kind of going in depth on each of the platforms. And this week's episode, which will come out later on in the week, will be focusing on Microsoft. So it's a good series to listen to, I think, and I think people that listen to this show may enjoy it.
Yeah. It was a really good discussion.
I agree. Stan wrote in with a question for you, Federico. Well, a question for both of us, really, about what stands we use for our iPad Pros, or if we know of any good stands to use. I use the Smart Keyboard exclusively. I always have the Smart Keyboard attached to my iPad Pro. It feels like part of the device for me, so I use it to stand as I'm typing, and I also use it to stand to watch video, and it does, I think, a pretty good job of that. I wish that I could control the angle degree when it's in typing. I would like it to sometimes be a little bit more up in front of my face as opposed to kind of further away from me. But that's relatively easy to do when positioning it on my lap. But I would prefer to be able to make that change. But Federico, I believe you use a dedicated stand because you don't use a keyboard, a physical keyboard, so often.
No, I absolutely love the 12 South Park Slope. That's the reason why I use it. It's exactly because I want my typing experience to be a little higher than the angle of the smart cover. And it's this simple aluminum stand. It's $50 from the 12 South store. I bought it on Amazon. It's very simple. It works with an iPad Pro. It works with MacBooks.
Yeah, this was designed to work for... This was a MacBook product, but it also fits the iPad.
Just perfectly. Yeah. And for extra... I don't really have to, because there's a couple of rubber feet at the bottom of the stand. But for extra grip, I actually fold the smart cover behind the iPad and then place the iPad on top of the Park Slope. I just love the angle. It's very comfortable for me. I can, I find it easier for typing long form articles on the Park Slope instead of the folded smart cover. Really simple. The hardware, it's nice. It's a it's a triangle basically, and gets my recommendation all the way. I love it.
Yeah, it's a nice piece of hardware. I mean, I have a few 12 South products. Everything they make tends to be fantastic. I am interested to understand some of the potential ergonomical issues with the way that we use our iPads. I don't know what's good or bad in regards to it. All I know is I move around a lot more and into different positions when I feel fatigue when I'm using my iPad, as opposed to sitting in front of my Mac all day. But the desk that I have is set up to be ergonomically sound. I don't know what the right option is, but I am interested to kind of see how that works over time, because all I know is if I'm using it at the desk, and especially looking at the way you're probably using this stand, is there's probably quite a lot of looking down, which is not necessarily that great for your spine.
No, that's not great, but the best part is when I feel like I need to move, because I'm using an iPad, I can just pick up the iPad and walk around the house.
That's my thing. Like, I found myself today, I really noticed this. I was in the kitchen typing, standing at the desk, and then I was walking upstairs and I had a thought, and I sat down on my staircase and typed out some more. And then I came upstairs and sat at my desk. Like, I don't do that with my iMac, and I'm not moving my iMac around the house.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know what the right option is. All I know is it's different.
Mm-hmm. So. Yeah, for our type of sedentary work, really the best way to battle our trend to sit down and not move is to change position often. And I feel like the iPad kind of enables that behavior, because you can pick it up, just stretch for 5 minutes, just change position with your hands, go from landscape mode to portrait mode, and really just moving and changing your position, standing up, stretching a little of your neck, take a few steps when you're working. That sort of stuff helps. I felt a lot worse when I used to work on my MacBook for 6 hours straight, and it's so easy to never go away from your desk, really, because you're in the zone. You're typing, you're coding, you're podcasting, whatever it is, you're just at your MacBook and you never leave your desk. With the iPad, it's just, I find it to be actually a lot better, because just the device is meant to be picked up, be held, be touched, move around, and it's just perfect for me.
Yeah. All right, so we're not going to spend too much time on this, because I don't think either of us are really educated enough to talk about this from a security perspective. But this morning, February 16th, Tim Cook wrote an open letter on apple.com about a security thing in regards to the FBI in the United States asking for Apple to create a backdoor into an individual's phone because of a terrorist incident in San Bernardino last year.
Yes.
And Tim Cook has written an open letter explaining why doing this one time for the FBI could cause significant issues and set a dangerous precedent for Apple. And I've seen a lot of backwards and forwards on Twitter as to what the security implications are. But my feeling about this when reading it is the way that I've come away from this is not saying about how, and Tim Cook's not really focusing on how feasible this is from a technical perspective. He's kind of focusing more on, if we do this, it sets and one of the headings in the article, a dangerous precedent for doing it time and time again.
It's really the principle of enabling government agencies to access the contents of an iPhone. Whether, Tim Cook says, we believe the FBI is doing this with good intentions and we have no sympathy for terrorists. But really, the problem is, if we do this for one phone, there's the risk that, the government is going to ask to do this for every kind of phone, and the technology could fall in the hands of people who are not the government, who are, criminals that want to access the contents of your iPhone. Now, again...
And I also read this as, and I don't implicate this at all, but my takeaway is maybe Apple doesn't even want people inside of Apple working on this. Right?
What do you mean?
Creating backdoors.
Mm-hmm.
You just don't want anybody doing this, because you don't know what the people could end up doing with it.
I feel like the best security is to create a piece of technology that is physically impossible to break into. Because every time there's a human making a decision, there's going to be a discussion. There's going to be a request to overcome, to circumvent security. And I wouldn't be surprised if Apple changed the iPhone 7. I don't know if this is even possible. So this is why we don't want to dwell on this for too long. We have no expertise in security, iOS firmware, secure keys, whatever. But from my, simple point of view, if it would be physically impossible for Apple or anyone else to break into an iPhone, I feel like that would even prevent this discussion, because the problem would then change to, well, you shouldn't sell a phone that is physically impossible to break into, because right now Apple makes a decision, the FBI asks for a backdoor and Apple says no. But the fact that Apple says no, it's not because it's physically impossible. It's because Tim Cook and the entire company doesn't want to. Whereas with an iPhone that doesn't actually have a way to bypass security, there wouldn't be this discussion. It would be, well, we don't want you to sell the iPhone in the United States, but what's the likelihood of that happening, really? So, maybe Apple will change the way that they do this kind of thing in the next iPhone. So I don't know.
So, yeah, it's worth reading, because all of these things are always written really well. I assume Tim Cook writes them with some help from Apple PR, I guess, but they're always fantastically written and worth reading.
Yeah, and the letter came in just a few hours after the court order from last night, from a California judge, I believe. So it was a really fast response.
And I'm wondering, and I don't know, but are they going to be able to win this? That's the interesting thing.
Yeah.
Are they going to be able to say no to this? Because the implication that Tim Cook is making is that they can do it, right?
They can do it, yes. That seems to be the implication.
Yeah, the implication in this letter is this is possible for Apple to do. So they are, and I'm sure the court already knew this. in whatever way, maybe through some legal means that Apple had to testify or somebody had to testify. I don't know. But they are saying basically that this is possible to do, but they do not want to do it. And I don't know how the law works, but that seems like a difficult thing. But
especially because there was a terrorist and a shooting and involved, and it's a little problematic.
But Apple have the money to fight it further than anybody else could, I guess. We'll
see what happens.
All right, let's take a break, and we've got a very interesting first topic today. This week's episode is brought to you by Smile and PDF Pen, your Swiss Army knife for working with PDFs. PDF Pen has all of the basics covered for working with PDFs, like filling in, signing forms, making edits, highlighting, and OCRing, the things that you're used to doing every day. But also with PDF Pen, you will be able to unlock specific powers that you never even knew you had to become the PDF wizard that you've always wanted to be. You can use redaction, word export, page numbering, and even Bates numbering, which is something extremely complicated that I don't understand. But you can do it with PDF Pen. And with PDF Pen for iPad and iPhone, you'll be able to take this wizardry on the road. You can take control of your contracts and forms no matter where you are. This is something that I do all the time, especially on my iPad Pro. I receive a contract via email, I open it in PDF Pen, sign it with my Apple Pencil, and send it on its way. It's so easy to do, to be able to do these things very quickly. On ATP, Casey was complaining about signing a contract, and I said to him, well, PDF Pen is all you need. If you're the type of person that enjoys a paperless office, you're going to love this. No more printing, scanning, or faxing. Just fill and sign with PDF Pen and you'll be on your way. Smile also offers 10 great tutorials from the very talented Mr. David Sparks of Mac Power Users. These short videos will teach you everything that you need to know about PDF Pen 7. You can learn more about PDF Pen at smilesoftware.com/connected. PDF Pen 7 and PDF Pen Pro 7 require OS X Yosemite, but work beautifully on El Capitan. PDF Pen for iOS is available from the App Store. Thank you so much to Smile for their continued support of this show and Relay FM. So, Federico, you shocked the nation.
Oh, did I? Really?
Yeah,
this
I
much?
think so.
Okay.
Yeah, this was a big surprise to me for a few different reasons, which we'll get into. You bought an Amazon Echo.
Yes.
Why did you do this?
I don't understand why it makes you so surprised.
I just don't know why you did it. Like, it's very confusing to me as to why you've done this. Considering, just tell me why.
Well, there's a few reasons. The first one is that I'm curious to try new things.
Sure.
It's my job to try
but
new
the
stuff.
Echo isn't very new.
No, it's not very new, but it's getting updates, and it got more powerful over the past few months thanks to integrations with a bunch of apps and services. So that sort of piqued my interest when I was reading about the Echo over the past couple of months, really, the Spotify integration, the Uber integration. So I was, every time I see a device with a lot of support for third-party services and apps, that sort of gets me, it gets me really interested in trying the product. And also, I want to say it's part of, it is really Dan Moren's fault. Because he's been writing about the Echo at 6 Colors, and I've been reading about what he does and all the crazy stuff that you can do for home automation, and I was like, man, this sounds really, really interesting. And also I'm sort of frustrated with Siri on the Apple Watch because it's slow, and on the iPhone because for some reason it sort of just stops working, and with HomeKit sometimes it doesn't understand my commands or it just doesn't do them. So it was a combination of things. I'm curious to try this new device. I saw the integrations. Siri can be a lot better, and I've been meaning to try a voice-powered service with a lot of app integrations, which Siri doesn't do. And to me, the idea of a speaker / robotic assistant that sits in my living room, and it doesn't require me to bring up Siri on my iPhone or my iPad. I can just start talking. It was sort of appealing to me for some reason. And so I was like, the problem is I cannot buy an Echo in Italy. So what do? because if I go to Amazon US, it doesn't ship to Rome. So what I did is I went to first. I looked up online. There's a few communities of Amazon Echo users. There's a Reddit that you can go to. There's a forum called I don't remember. I'll send you a link, Mike. So I looked it up, and people were saying you can buy the Echo from the US if you find a way, and you can use it outside of the US. You will just lose the ability to access some US features, such as asking what's the weather outside, because outside doesn't mean you're in America. Or you cannot look up traffic information, or you cannot use US Prime services. But everything else, those people said it's working just fine.
So it works with your Italian Amazon account?
Oh yeah.
That's interesting.
Okay, so I'll get to the setup. So I looked it up. I was basically 90% sure that it was gonna work in Italy. So I went to eBay. I looked up Amazon Echo, and there was a guy in the UK who apparently has bought a lot of Amazon Echoes and is selling them to European customer with a bit of markup, of course. It's about really $100. I figured, whatever. I just want to try this. I understand why this guy went through the trouble of importing all these devices and selling them again on eBay. So I bought it 10 days ago, and it got here yesterday, actually earlier than expected. So, it was a nice surprise with the eBay.
plus would Echo again.
Yes, exactly. So it got here yesterday, and I wanted to briefly touch upon the setup. You don't need a US Amazon account. You don't need a Prime subscription. At least my understanding is you just need an Amazon account. So I logged in with my Italian Amazon account, and it was ready to go. So the way that you set up the Echo is you take out this cylinder-like object from the box. You plug it into the power outlet. I needed to buy a US adapter, by the way, for my Italian, wall outlet. You plug in the power. There's no Ethernet cable. It works over Wi-Fi. You turn it on, you connect to the Wi-Fi network that the Echo creates. So you connect your iPhone to the Echo itself, and then you basically instruct the Echo to connect to your existing Wi-Fi network at home, so it can, configure itself, communicate with the Amazon servers, download the software update. Actually, didn't download the software update, which I'll get to that in a minute. You wait like a couple of minutes, and then it's ready to go. And you download this Alexa app from the App Store that it shows you a video at the beginning to kind of give you a few examples of what you can do. And then you're ready to go. You can just say Alexa and, ask your command, really. And there's a bunch of features that you can try. You can ask for weather conditions. So you can
ask for the weather. You just can't ask for the weather outside.
You have to format your question. So for me, I would say, Alexa, what's the weather in Rome, Italy?
That's fine.
You cannot say what's the weather. You have to specify, and it totally works. It's I was surprised to see that the quality of the speech recognition is much, much better than Siri. It works from a distance. So I keep my Echo on a shelf in my kitchen/living room, and I can talk to Alexa from another room. I can talk to Alexa while the TV is going. I can talk to Alexa while Alexa is playing music from Spotify. The speech recognition is just incredible. Much, much better than Siri.
Give me some examples of the things that you're asking it.
So, I've only played with the Echo for a couple of hours so far because I didn't have time this morning. So far, I've been asking questions such as unit conversion, which I do a lot. So, pounds, feet converted to the metric system. Unit conversion for, money, dollars, euros, that kind of stuff. Just random Wikipedia type questions that I would normally look up on Google. And I configured the Spotify integration because I want to see. I love Apple Music, right? I just completely in love with Apple Music. But I want to see if with the voice, commands of the Amazon Echo, I'm going to listen to music more during the day because I don't have the pressure of having to interrupt my writing flow to go to the music app or to ask to Siri, which never understands what I'm asking for. I want to see if by having a separate assistant dedicated to music and other stuff, I'm gonna listen to music more. Does that make sense, Mike?
I think so.
When I'm writing, I don't want to be distracted by other apps. So I mute notifications. I don't use split view. I'm just looking at my text editor. But I would like to have music in the background. I just don't want to operate another app. I don't want to distract me visually from text. So having a robot basically take care of music for me, I want to see if I like it, if that works for me.
Have you tried to do this with Siri?
Yes.
And it didn't work for you?
Never works.
So what is the hit rate with the Echo's voice recognition?
What so far, I would say, and again, this is based on just a few experiments from last night, a solid 90%. It's really amazing.
But so you're kind of, there is one thing about the music though, where you're kind of moving into mic territory here. You just bought a Sonos, and now you're playing music on the Echo.
I want to understand what's better.
What I mean is though, yeah, I get that.
I can always sell this stuff later.
You sure can. It's just the funny thing of like you just went all in on this Sonos system for playing your music, and now you're like, let's get the.
Well, I don't see myself ever leaving Apple Music, just because I love the family subscription. I love the For You section.
Right. So there's no way for you to play your Apple Music over the Echo and work it that way.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's maybe a few ways. You can send the audio from the music app to the Echo speaker because it's also Bluetooth. But there's no way to ask Alexa about Apple Music, and I don't see Apple ever working with Amazon to bring Apple Music integration to Alexa. That's not gonna happen. But really, I feel like I just want to understand what's better for me.
Yeah.
And the only way to do this, it's not to read on tech blogs what other people think, it's to actually try it. And the Amazon Echo to try, it was a little tricky to, get a unit because I needed to go on eBay and it's not officially supported in Italy. But whatever, I just feel like there's something about the idea of a Siri for the home that is separate from your iPhone or your iPad, that sits somewhere in your living room or in your bedroom. There's something to the idea of an assistant that you can just walk around and ask questions to, that I feel like Apple should really consider, for the future. There was this post from MG Siegler just 2 days ago. I was about to receive my Echo, and he's making the same argument that this is what Apple and Google should have done. And I understand why a lot of people are super in love with their Amazon Echo. Even Christina Warren really loves the Echo.
It's very confusing to me because I don't understand why this physical device sitting in one specific place is better than the device that you have with you and the voice commands like, I'm sorry everybody, the hello telephone or the okay material type scenario.
There's something about walking around the house, not having to carry the iPhone and talking to Siri like an idiot, just walking freely and talking to another person, but it's a robot. That seems to be the key here.
So is it doing a better job then? Is that the key here? It's doing a better job.
It depends. So you cannot, of course, do the native stuff that Siri does. You cannot send messages, or you cannot open apps on your device, of course. But you can do a lot of the things that Siri does. You can connect to your calendar. You can connect to home automation devices, which is what I'm gonna do this week. Because a lot of people are saying that the Philips Hue integration, the Belkin Wemo integration is super solid and much better than HomeKit. And I feel like Siri has a place on the iPhone for some deep native integrations, but a lot of the things that I would like Siri to do, the Amazon Echo already does. So, you know, turning my lights on and off, connecting to my Belkin Wemo switch, asking for music that actually understands me. I mean, the Echo is even doing a better job at accepting my, you know, Italian accent, whereas Siri gets a lot more confused than the Amazon Echo. So it's more forgiving, and really, I just feel like the speech recognition is better, especially when you can talk, you know, walk around the house and say Alexa out loud, and it listens to you. That's impressive. But I'm in the early stages, you know, of playing around with the Echo. I've only configured the Spotify integration and asked a bunch of questions for, you know, converting units and Wikipedia and weather. There's a lot more to try.
Are you able to hook up the Echo with any of the existing home automation devices you have?
I have the Philips Hue lights. I have the Belkin Wemo switch, you know, the traditional one. I feel I don't think I can connect the Echo to the Elgato sensors. I don't think there's a way.
Okay.
So that's too bad. Yeah, it would have been nice. What I want to do is, because there's a IFTTT integration with the Amazon Echo, I want to create ways to add tasks to my to-do with Alexa. That's gonna be nice. I'm thinking about a workflow to have Alexa send an email to my to-do email address and create tasks with Alexa.
All right, so actually, here's the thing. So what I wanted to bring up next might help you with this. Again, Dan Moran, who seems to be the king of home automation these days.
Yeah.
He turned me on via 6 Colors to Wink. Wink is a app and web service. They also make their own hardware products as well, which allows you to control and program some devices. And it has a bunch of devices that it works with, one of them being the Amazon Echo. So you're able to chain them together, chain your devices together. It kind of works as a bridge between them all. And the reason that I have checked this out is because Wink and my Canary, my home alarm system, my home security system, work together. So I'm able to do things with the Wink integration of Canary that I cannot do with a Canary on its own. So what I've been able to do is to we've kind of decided that we don't want the camera on when we're at home.
Sure, yeah.
Now, you can have that. You can have it armed when you're at home, and it knows you're at home, so it doesn't go crazy all the time. And you can train it to know who the people are. But I just don't want it to be on and armed when we're at home. So we have it in privacy mode. But what I did think about a couple of days ago is if we had a home intrusion at night, I want the Canary to pick that up. Yeah. So I've been able to use Wink to program my Canary to be in armed mode, so at 2 a.m., because that's usually when there's no movement in the house, because I'm definitely asleep. Not definitely, but I'm usually asleep by that time. And then to set back into privacy mode at 7 a.m., which is when Adina is waking up to go to work.
Nice.
So that now does that on its own. But you're able to use Wink as it's like a home automation protocol. So you're able to use the Amazon Echo to do things. For example, I believe that Dan Moran uses Wink as a way to turn on his Canary via the Echo.
Oh, that's nice. You know, I can try to turn on my ManyThing recording system with the iPhones and iPod Touches that I use as cameras with the Amazon Echo. You know, I'm going to try this.
Yeah, so as Dan says in a post that I'll put in our show notes, which you can find at relay.fm/connector/78 or in your podcast app of choice, he says, I can now arm, disarm, or engage Canary's privacy mode via voice commands to Alexa. Moreover, I also integrated it with my Wemo light switch, so when my office light automatically turns off at night, the Canary is automatically armed.
Wow,
it's an interesting thing. And Wink make their own physical products, which allow you to trigger a lot of these actions via touch. So So they have physical, and they also have like some hub stuff. But it seems like this protocol that allows you to connect these devices together that previously couldn't talk to each other. So there could be some interesting ways for you to unlock some features in there, Federico.
Just another point that I feel like people are going to ask us about. Yes, I do talk to my Amazon Echo in English. All my devices are set to English, even if I live in Italy, just because most of the time I talk in English, for work and with friends like Mike and Steven. And the people who are close to me, my family, my girlfriend, my close friends, they are used to seeing me and hearing me talk in English to Siri, to on the shows when I'm in the other room. So people around me don't think I'm crazy. They do know it's for work. So when I set up the Echo yesterday, no one was surprised to hear me talking English to the speaker. So yeah.
Okay, that's a normal thing that you do.
Yes,
but it does a good job of your accent.
Much better than Siri. Yes.
All right, we should come back to the Sonos, because Sonos and Apple Music support launched this week, so I want to get your thoughts on that, Federico. Mm-hmm. But before we do that, let me take a moment to thank Squarespace for sponsoring this week's episode. You can start building your own website today at squarespace.com. Use the offer code WORLD at checkout, and you'll get yourself a lovely 10% off. Squarespace, build it beautiful. With Squarespace, you're able to build a site that looks professionally designed regardless of your skill level. There's no coding experience required. Squarespace has state-of-the-art technology to power your site, to ensure security and stability, and to also help you build a website that you want. They have responsive design built into all of their fantastic templates. They have intuitive, easy-to-use tools and make it very simple to drag and drop, construct, and build a website in the way that you want it to look. You are able to do all of this in the web browser. You're able to drag and drop elements. You're able to customize elements and create a place for yourself online that is easy, without all of the things that you usually have to worry about. You don't have to worry about hosting, you don't have to worry about scaling, you don't have to worry about security updates. They have all of this covered for you. And Squarespace also back this up with their 24/7 support with live chat and email. They have people on hand ready to help you with anything that you might need. They have their commerce platform to allow you to sell physical and digital goods. They have bunches of integrations with other services to allow you to take your Squarespace site super far and into the future. They also have cover page functionality, so you can build great-looking single-page websites as well. Squarespace plans start at just $8 a month, and if you sign up for a year, you'll also get a free domain name as well. You can start a trial today with no credit card required and build your own website straight away by going to squarespace.com, and then when you decide to sign up, use the offer code WORLD at checkout. You'll be supporting this show and getting 10% off your first purchase. Thank you to Squarespace for their continued support of Connected and Relay FM. Squarespace. You should. All right, so Sonos and Apple Music support is now here, Federico. So
yes.
In your home full of speakers these days, what are your thoughts now that the service has launched?
It works. It's nice. It just doesn't have the same fun of Apple Music, in the sense that it's a very utilitarian interface. When you connect Apple Music to Sonos, the main page of the Apple Music service in the Sonos app, it's really just a list of albums and songs. There's no, all this the stuff that's going on in the Apple Music, the custom backgrounds, the curation with the different sizes of albums and playlists, the rotating banners at the top. There's none of that in the Sonos app. It's just a list of either a list or a grid of albums. It's just not as fun as Apple Music, and it doesn't have many. It's not just a visual problem. It doesn't have many of the same features or recommendations of Apple Music. So when you listen to an album in Apple Music, at the bottom or at the side, if you're on the iPad, you get either recommendations for similar artists or similar albums. You get none of that on the Sonos app. You just get the album or song or artist that you're listening to. And even when you open artist pages in Sonos, you don't see the same browsing experience of Apple Music. When you're in Apple Music, you get, the latest release at the top, top songs, top albums, which is, these features were taken from Beats Music. So before you dig deeper into an artist's catalog, you see the top stuff and the latest stuff at the top. In the Sonos app, you just get a grid of albums in no particular order. You have to remember what's the year the albums were published, what's a popular song's name, and of course you don't get the three controls at the top of an artist page to switch between Apple Music, My Music, and Connect. You simply get what's on Apple Music. It's a very basic integration. There's the For You section, it's there, and it contains the same content of the For You section in the Music app. It's just not as fun, again, because there's no, the layout is super basic. It's a list of stuff that, Apple Music thinks you should listen to. So if you're really into Apple Music, all the functionalities and the design itself, you should use the Apple Music app on your phone. Mm-hmm. But that's not to say that this is not a welcome integration, because it totally works. For You has the same recommendations. The setup experience is very nice. You're taken to this custom login page from the Sonos app into Apple Music on your iPhone or your iPad. You authenticate with your Apple ID. You say, yes, I want to give Sonos access to my Apple Music account. And then you're taken back to the Sonos controller app for iOS. It's a really nice setup experience. It's super stable. This is, not a surprise, because the entire Sonos line seems to be very stable for me. Streaming is okay, and one of the perks of using Sonos is that you can search across multiple services at once. So if you connect, Apple Music, SoundCloud, then your own music library, you can do cross search across multiple services at once. So for instance, when I'm looking for Death Cab for Cutie, I can see results from Apple Music, I can see remixes from SoundCloud, and I can see the bootleg shows that I have on my Synology with my local music library. That's very nice.
Bootleg shows. Huh?
Yes. No, that's true. Actually,
your home videos.
No, really, it's from other people, but the concept applies.
Sure.
And it's very nice to have this kind of unified experience, and it's. Of course, it's better than having to set up, workarounds to stream from the Apple Music app to the Sonos, which is totally possible because I installed Air Sonos on my Mac. But the native integration on the Sonos itself, it's better and faster. So it's nice. It works. It's just not as fun or as full featured as the Music app.
And it also supports family accounts, right?
I haven't tried that, but I think it does.
There's a K-Base article.
Well, we should have had Steven explain this to us.
In his honor, we will include an article from the K-Base. I assume it's the K-Base, support.apple.com. Who knows? That thing's a mystery to everybody.
Yeah. Well, look at that. There's a document here. Yeah, you're right. Thank you, Mike. I didn't know this.
So last up today, this is an interesting one. A special episode of the talk show dropped last Friday. There was already an episode put out in the week. It was, a thing orchestrated of Apple PR, I'm sure, with Mr. Gruber. And this isn't the first time. This is maybe like the third or fourth time that an Apple executive has appeared on the talk show. But this time, Eddie Q and Craig Federighi joined John Gruber. And it seemed like that they had some messages that they wanted to put across. And they seemed to focus around software quality.
Yeah.
Right? So they were talking about the Apple TV. They were talking about the criticisms of software quality and iTunes. They seem to be kind of the big things that were discussed here. And, it's difficult to really kind of look at what the message itself was. There's a lot of criticism of what was said on the show by the Apple executives, effectively, in a nutshell, they were talking about the complexity of their services and saying that the apps crash less. There are more users now, and things are better in general. That's kind of like what they were saying. And the criticism of this is that doesn't really say anything about the quality of the software. That there are more issues than just crashing. And just saying that there are more people using it doesn't excuse the fact that there are problems perceived by people. And there's also been criticism of the tech press as well for the way that this is being looked at, from the other side, saying that there's a bit of an echo chamber effect going on here. I'm wondering kind of where you stand on this, given the criticism, the response, and the criticisms again.
You may be surprised, Mike, to know that I stand sort of in the middle. Let me explain. I feel like for many people, the main problem is that Apple is doing too many things right now. And a lot of people don't like that because a lot of people grew up with a sort of Apple that was focused on a couple of things. And now that they're doing smartphones and tablets and computers and, music and iCloud and watches and maybe in the future cars and, all these other stuff, I just feel like, of course, Apple is not the underdog anymore. And for some people, it becomes more difficult to accept the flaws of a company when it's so huge and so big. Problems exist, for sure. We've seen the crazy bugs with iOS 7. We continue to see the problems with iTunes, with Apple Music. And there's a couple of apps.
Yeah, there are numerous issues with the device that we love, right? And
yes.
you called out a lot of them in your initial review, and a lot of those things haven't been changed.
Yeah,
right. There are a ton of issues with the keyboard and the way that's supported, like the actual software keyboard. Yeah. There are bugs all over the place, right? In different Apple products and services, and part of the problem, and I think the real problem, the reason this is an issue in the first place, and they address this on the show, is that Apple holds themselves to a higher standard than everybody else, which is why they open themselves up to this criticism.
Yeah. Of course, we all expect better from Apple.
Yeah.
The problem is, I feel like it's just, at some point it becomes humanly impossible to serve, 1 billion devices every month and not have bugs all over the place. And that's just the reality that we need to accept.
But the software bugs aren't like service bugs. I'm sure crop up with 1 billion people, but software bugs don't get any worse because there's 1 billion people. It's only one piece of software.
Well,
right?
That's arguable. Because
I guess different circumstances, right?
Yes.
And there is how many quadrillions of edge cases are there, but that isn't necessarily the case when you're looking at something like Discovery D, right? That's not exemplified by the amount of people.
That's why I'm in the middle, because we need to understand which problems we're talking about. Because many problems are objective and you should fix those. And it's really a shame that they shipped. So we can talk about Discovery D, we can talk about the software keyboard on the iPad Pro. But there's other stuff that so many variables you got to take into account. Which device are you using? Where are you located? Which settings do you have? Which language do you have in your device? Have you updated to the latest software? What's the screen resolution there?
What's your network connectivity status?
Exactly. There's so many variables when so many people are involved. And saying Apple has more bugs, it's really a blank. It's one of those statements that it just says everything and says nothing. But that doesn't mean that Apple doesn't have problems. See, this is where it gets tricky. It is objective that there are issues, but it's also something that we gotta keep in mind that not everyone is seeing the same problems, and many of these problems change from person to person just because it's the nature of software when it operates at scale to not have the same issues or the same qualities for everyone. And it's a very tricky discussion because it's easy to say, well, Apple is so big now, they don't care about quality, and their software is riddled with problems, and I'm just gonna stop using Apple devices. and on the other hand, you have people saying, no, everything's fine, and Apple is awesome, and Apple is magic, and everything is working correctly. I stand in the middle of all that. There are problems, but Apple is also working at a scale that's unimaginable just compared to a few years ago. When you consider all iCloud, the iTunes Store, Apple Music, so many web services with so many people iMessage, it's just different than it used to be. And a lot of people are having difficulty coming to terms with that reality. It feels to me like, some people just prefer the Apple of the old days, the nostalgia of the Underdog. And nowadays it's different. And it was a really interesting discussion. I keep not accepting the excuse that Apple is seeing fewer crashes. That's really not an explanation, because it
is a separate fact.
That's hiding the truth with a pretty statistic.
Yeah, it's like, you know what? That's awesome. Congratulations on that. That is great. I'm pleased that that's happening. That you've done that. But that doesn't. It's not crashes that are the problem. It seems like weird decisions and missteps are the issues, or things that they're just not doing that they should do. That's where the problems come in. And we go back to decisions that are made or corners that are cut. So, for example, again, we keep bringing this up because it's something that annoys us. The layout of the software keyboard on the iPad Pro.
Mm-hmm.
They just didn't bother to do it.
Yes,
that's what it is.
That's not a bug.
That's the quality of software. It's not a bug. It is poor decisions that are made, which we don't expect, considering the standard that Apple hold themselves to with the quality of software. The quality is the thought that goes into it, not the bugs that you find within it. That's what a lot of the issue is here, is the thought that you're putting into this application, this service, this part of your software. Right, that's what it is. That's the stuff that we're missing at times, and that isn't explained in statistics of crashing.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, and it is very difficult for me to balance, the wish for a perfect software quality and the reality of billions of people having these devices. I mean, in an ideal state, you would have Apple making the same money as they do now, having the billion iOS devices, active around the world, but also the software quality of, years ago when the operation was smaller and it was easier to kind of, to keep things in check and to say, well, this thing doesn't work and, or we're going to ship this app in a perfect state because we have the resources and we have the focus. It's really a problem of focus. I feel it's.
What I think the problem is right now is it is psychological.
Oh yeah.
And the reason that I say this is we are looking at the bugs on our iPhones and our Macs in a harsher light because 2015 saw the release of two fundamentally flawed products in the Apple Watch and the Apple TV. They both launched badly.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that those experiences are giving us a taint on everything. So the bugs are still there that they've been forever. Like iOS 9 is miles ahead of iOS 7. iOS 7 was a dumpster fire, right? I will use Stephen's phrase in his absence. That was a disaster of an operating system for its entire life, right? It was full of bugs, full of bugs.
I feel like one of the key problems is that, and this applies to life in general, if you wanna say that.
I do.
Whenever someone or something is successful, hugely successful, it creates a pent-up demand for people to point out things that are wrong. Just because
people want to bring it down.
Yes,
a notch, right.
Yes, exactly.
And you see that in people mainly that don't like Apple products, right? They try and bring them down.
You also see that in people who like, in theory, Apple products. And for different reasons, because maybe they liked Apple when they were more focused on fewer, services and products, or You see that in people who don't like the fact that Apple is not doing much Mac stuff anymore because they're more focused on, iOS and watchOS. There's different reasons why even Apple fans are, really negative or on Apple lately. And also I see this all the time on Twitter, especially in the past couple of years. People are sort of mixing the problems that they see into one basket, saying that the TV remote of the Apple TV doesn't have the perfect layout. That doesn't apply to the software quality discussion. But people seem to throw in, all sorts of criticism into a single bucket and saying, Apple is
why
not...
do you think that doesn't apply to software quality?
What does a TV remote design apply to software?
Oh, right. You mean the actual physical...
the actual physical object.
Yeah, I thought you meant like the way that it's that singular line. But I think that I personally think that software quality, as the heading that we're giving this, is a poor name. I think it should be attention to detail.
Probably.
Because that encompasses everything that we're feeling or that people are feeling, right? The slowness of the Apple Watch, the poor design of the remote. Although I think the remote looks beautiful, but it's functionally poorly designed. Right? Like I, for the first time yesterday, was holding my remote in the wrong orientation, trying to scroll around, and But going back to quickly to like the psychological aspect that I mentioned a moment ago, this is what I think is the key part of it here from my perspective, is that we're looking at the watch, right, which is underwhelming from a software perspective, especially with the way that Apple pitched it. I don't think any of us use our watches the way that Apple originally showed it. It's full of apps, right? And you're going into apps and doing stuff. I use my watch every day. I love my Apple Watch, but I don't use it the way that it was originally pitched to us. I use it as it gives things to me rather than I go to get things from it. I like the Apple TV, but it's so crazy in the way that it does things. Like, I just try and look at, I've heard Marco mention this about trying to find an episode of a TV show, and you have to scroll through every single series to go to the most recent episode. I had to do that recently. It's like, what is this? This is insane. Like, oh, and here's the thing. I bought a movie. I bought Ghostbusters 1 and 2. Me and Idiot wanted to watch those over the weekend. I went to the iTunes store. I clicked the buy button, and nothing changed. I had no confirmation of buying it. The buy button didn't change to a purchase button. I clicked it again. Nothing happened. I didn't get multiple charged, but I clicked it a couple of times thinking it wasn't purchased. Nothing changed. I went to purchase and it was there. It's like, why didn't the buy button give me some indication that I'd purchased this movie? Like it's little things like that where they just add up, and it's like, this is crazy. So then when you apply that to other parts of your Apple experience, and then when something weird happens on your iPhone, you're like, what is this nightmare scenario that has been created for me by Apple Incorporated? And I think that's where this is becoming more of an issue, because 2015 saw two products heavily hyped and kind of released underwhelmingly, to the point where they're saying that there's going to be a new Apple remote app coming, right? And it's like, well, all right, it's needed. Why is it now?
Because it's not ready. I mean, you gotta...
Exactly, but, I go back to this all the time, and I know that people hate this and whatever, but if it wasn't ready, why did you release it in the first place? Nobody made you do it. You choose. I don't know.
Well, I don't know. For how long does this argument extend? Because you can say, well, if you knew how to make the iPhone 5, why wasn't the first iPhone the iPhone 5?
Well, no, but you're taking something that already exists and you're replacing it with lesser functionality. That's the difference. It's like, imagine the iPhone 7 is released, but that there is no music app. But the music app comes in 2 weeks' time or 2 months' time. Right? That would be like, what are you doing here? This is crazy. That's the way I look at that anyway. But I understand both sides of that argument. But anyway, that's that, right? Like, they tried to excuse the software quality. I don't think that they did a job that anybody was really happy with. But they did what you would have expected, is they spun the PR angle and tried to do a good job of kind of papering over the cracks. I actually think that John Gruber did a good job with this. I think
Yes.
he poked and prodded them,
Yeah.
but didn't. And I like, if I was in that scenario, I don't think I would do a good job. But let's say I could do a good job.
I would have gotten upset.
My thing is that I would know not to bother, because they've given you an answer like that. You know, he poked them a little bit. They told the funny story about Craig, about like Eddie Q going to Craig's house.
Do you
right?
think it's a real story, by the way?
I do, actually. I do. And eventually it's like, then obviously this is the line they're taking. There's no point pushing them because they're not going to give me anything else. They're not going to go, all right, you got me. It's crap. They're not going to do that. So you take it as, you take it as far as you can take it. They did drop in a couple of little parts that I thought were interesting. Eddie says at one point there's a new version of OS X with a refreshed iTunes app with a focus on music coming next month. What? Now, I can assume that when he says new version of OS X, he means like El Capitan, another version of El Capitan, right? Not like the next version of OS X. You know, I can imagine that's not what they're talking about here. We'll see that at WWDC, I would assume. But there's some new iTunes app coming, apparently, which we don't know anything about yet.
Yeah, nope.
But that maybe means that this March event, right, which is next month, might have some OS X or Mac stuff in it, maybe. Or they just announced this separately.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
And play with me here.
All right.
Do you think
I've
that...
always wanted to.
do you think that to an extent... one of the problems, at least, is that nerds want to be loved by Apple more? Let me explain.
Yeah.
Let me explain. Every time it's WWDC time, it's around June, and Apple has a big event and developers fly to San Francisco, they feel respected, they feel loved, they get the speech by Phil Schiller, they see Tim Cook, they see Craig Federighi, and everyone's excited. From the summer, there's plenty of good feelings. The holidays pass, the September event passes, it's January, and, Apple is working on what's next, and nerds start to feel a distance from the company, and routinely, negativity bubbles up again. And I just find the timing interesting of this John Gruber interview. It was almost like Apple, Mother Apple saying, don't worry, we're here, we're thinking about you guys, it's going to get better.
Yeah, I think so. And they dropped in a couple of tidbits about it, which I think is really telling when Federighi was like, yeah, we know we didn't have Bluetooth support in the Apple TV, but the funny thing is, when WWDC is going on, there's no Bluetooth keyboards being used with the Apple TV.
Yeah,
I thought that was really... I found that quite a endearing story, and it's very telling of the problems that they have to go through, is the people that are talking about this to the wider world aren't necessarily the normal users, but we are the ones that push them hardest, which is what they need, right? And they must appreciate that, because we are the ones that hold them accountable, and it is that accountability that pushes them forward to make better things. But it is funny to hear that. And yes, I agree that this is, I think a lot of this was, they know the audience of the talk show. The talk show's audience is even more narrow than Daring Fireball. They could have said, we want to do a written interview with Daring Fireball, but no, they chose to do the talk show. I think that this was a lot of trying to put some of this at ease, and the people they're trying to put at ease are developers and the tech press. I think that was part of what they were attempting to do here, which was why they chose this venue to have this conversation.
Yeah.
Something that Federighi said, our back-channel communication regarding responding to radars needs to improve.
Yes, that's true.
I thought that was very good. It's very true. And they said that they understand the need at trying to get better at communicating what's fixed and what's going to be fixed. And I thought that was kind of something that it felt like he just wanted to talk about as opposed to it being prompted. So I thought that was a really good thing to bring up.
Yeah, anyone who's ever used Radar, and especially developers who file a lot of bugs, know that every time Apple closes a bug without an explanation, this
what does it mean?
What does it mean? This is a duplicate, or the functionality is working as intended. Well, what does it mean? Just give me an update.
Well, it's the intention to break it? Like, what is the intention?
I found one of Federighi's points really good when he said, Well, sometimes we don't reply because we don't have a protocol for saying we know it's a problem right now, but we're working on a fix for a future version of the OS. So how do we do it? Do we promise a fix? Do we provide a time frame? How can we communicate that we know it's a problem in the current version, in the stable release, but it's going to get addressed in the future? That's a really good point. When you don't want to overpromise, when you don't want to provide developers with a schedule, with a release date, because that's gonna get passed to the press. That's a really good point. But there's also ways to maybe improve that communication. Just to say we were aware that it's a problem. It's gonna be released. There's gonna be a fix in the future. We'll send you an email. That can be something. We'll send you a summary of your bugs when they're fixed in an upcoming release. But that can work. There's ways to not give people a release date or to give people a promise, but still to keep people informed. So
I agree.
We'll see. Well, maybe this year, maybe this time around iOS 10, it's the good moment for introspection and for, giving developers the tools that they really want and the fixes that, they want to see.
And if any Apple executive ever wants to come on this show, we'll roll out the red carpet for you.
And to give the nerds a little more love.
Yeah, the European. Come speak to Europe.
Yeah.
Even though our audience is majority US, but we don't have to worry about that. Me and Federico on there. All right, I think that's it, Mr. Ticci.
Oh yeah, good show.
Good show. Grab bag. Lots of stuff today. If you want to find our show notes for this week, you know where to go. relay.fm/connect2/78, or just do some scrolling in your podcast app. They hopefully should be there. If you want to find Federico online, you can go over to macstories.net, where you'll find his beautiful work, or he's at Viticci, Viticci. On Twitter. Don't forget, Federico also hosts Canvas and Remaster on Relay FM as well. So more gaming and iOS-focused content there from our Italian stallion. If you want to find Mr. Stephen Hackett, because he's not here, so you have to go find him, go to 512pixels.net for his writing, and he is at ISMH on Twitter. He also hosts Liftoff as well on Relay FM. I host many shows at Relay FM, too many to list, in fact. I have a little blog now over at mikewasright.com, the best URL on the internet. And I'm also at iMike on Twitter, IMYKE. Thanks again to Smile with PDF Pen and Squarespace for sponsoring this week's episode. Thank you to everybody that is a member of Relay FM, supports this show or any of our other shows. You can find out more information about that over at relay.fm/membership. And you can sign up there if you would like to. We'll be back next week, I think, all three of us. But who knows? Yeah. Maybe it's your turn to take a week off, Federico. I hope not. But
I don't think so.
That's my boy. Until then, thanks for listening. We'll be back. But say goodbye, Federico.
Arrivederci.
Adios?
You said that.